Okay, so it is the 31st of August, 2025. It is about 6:48 in the morning. I woke up, it's Saturday. I woke up for some ungodly reason at about 4:30. Tossed and turned for about an hour before I got up, took a shower, had some caffeine. And then I had a quick conversation with a guy hanging out in a parking lot. That was an interesting conversation. Dude was like, "I'm not here to steal anything." And I'm like, "I didn't think you were," because I didn't think he was. And then he tried to tell me he's Native American. And I'm like, okay. And then he said he was Blackfoot, which was a tribe or is a tribe. And I was like, oh, I made a joke. I was like, "Is that why you're black?" And he looked at me. He's like, "I'm not black. I'm Native American." I'm like, dude, you are black. So there's definitely some black in him somewhere. But yeah, that was an interesting conversation. But yeah, sure. You know, if you're Native American, if that's how you identify, who am I to stop you? So apparently he even has it on his driver's license. So, because he's like, yeah, the police stopped me. When the police stopped me, because I am a person of color, you know, they always want to stop me and then they want to tell me I'm black and I'm not. I'm Native American. And I'm like, okay, you're a Native American, dude. But then he said he was a veteran. You know, I'm a veteran. We started talking about that. He was Army. He was airborne infantry. So I asked him if he was 82nd, and he goes, yeah, airborne infantry. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, there's more airborne units. 82nd just happens to be the most popular. You know, he could have been, I mean, if he was a Ranger, he would have said Ranger. Or if he was Special Forces, he would have said that. But anywho, this is the point right here. You can see the sign off to the left in Brighton Boulevard, again, Broadway. Because it is so early in the morning and I'm not expecting a lot of traffic, I thought we'd go down Broadway. Just kind of see Denver early in the morning when there's no traffic, and hopefully I won't get stopped by every light that I see like the other day. So, but yeah, there's Denver in all of its morning glory. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm in Denver, but there's all the like downtown tall buildings and stuff. Also, I'm not sure how the audio quality is going to come in today. Yesterday, my left earbud went down to like the lowest possible volume level and stayed there no matter what I did. Like, you could barely hear it. And I thought maybe it was just wet, because these are rated for like to be caught in the rain in and stuff. So I wear them to the gym. I'll wear them in the steam room. I'll wear them while sitting in a hot tub, things like that. You know, but I don't dunk my head. So I don't know if they finally got too wet or what happened, but kind of annoyed because I've only had these for about 4 months and they've been great. But I go through earbuds, man. Between going to the gym and just the activity level that I keep up. Yeah. So, anywho, I think these are still under warranty. I'm gonna, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, I'll call customer support. Because this has happened a few times in the past. But usually if I just, you know, set them aside, let them dry out, it goes back to normal. This is the first time it's lasted this long. And again, I don't think it's a manufacturer's problem so much as it's you told me I could wear these. Hey, puppy. You told me I could wear these in the rain. You know, like you're out for a run and you get caught in the rain, or you're out for a walk and you get caught in the rain, or bicycle ride, you get caught in the rain. Like that kind of, like they're designed to get wet. That's why I bought these and not some other brand with maybe higher sound quality rating, or you know, more a larger name brand. And don't get me wrong, these are a semi-name brand. What do I mean by that? It is a Chinese brand that makes speakers, they make cell phone accessories, they make headphones. I've owned their headphones in the past. I've seen a lot of their headphones at people's houses and stuff. They make decent quality stuff. a little bit less expensive than you know, your name brand stuff, or a lot less expensive depending on which brand you're looking at, because they're a lot less expensive than, let's say, Bose or Sony, but they're comparable to, let's say, Beats when they're on sale, or they're higher quality in my opinion than Skull Candy, because I had a pair of Skull Candy earbuds. I didn't wear them for like the first month I had them, because I like the kind that wrap around your ear and hold it on, because I do wear them to the gym, and every kind I've had that did not have some kind of latch, whether it's a band or a strap that goes around your ear or something, every time I've had something that did not have that kind of security, they fall out. They fall out while you're talking or while you're chewing or whatever, and I wanted something that wrapped around. In fact, I've bought, to go to the gym I have bought, I don't know why I stopped, there's no traffic. That's because I was waiting for the little guy to tell me it's okay to go. I have bought really inexpensive headphones in the past, specifically because they have that band, or they have a strap, or they have something that says you know, these are secure on your head if you're bouncing around, if you're jumping, if you're doing something. No parking on the sidewalk. Okay. I guess this is the bus station. I did not know that. Because there's traffic is coming. This time I probably could have made it, but I didn't want to risk it. I was kind of thinking, you know what? We've gone down this part of Broadway before. There's nothing special over there. Let's go down here, and somewhere around Colfax we'll jet over to Broadway and go south. Just, you know, change of pace. Really surprised nobody's bought this building off to the left and converted it to another high-rise apartment or an office building. Oh, dang. Giant hole in the side. But yeah. So I've been real happy with these headphones because they stay on my ears even when they do start to work their way out. Or I keep saying headphones, but I mean, excuse me, earbuds. They do work themselves out, but that little latch that goes around my ear, that usually catches it. And if you noticed, I went through the yellow light there, the lady with the dog. I don't know if you saw her, but she actually stepped out into the road before the crosswalk guy said that it was safe to crosswalk. So that's why I excused myself, because she stepped out into the road, but technically I still had the right of way for what it's worth. No traffic, so we'll go. Like there's nothing to the east or the west. See, look, nothing. Coming my way, nothing. So that's what I mean when I say there's no traffic. But yeah. Ooh, that guy's having a bad day. Somebody busted in the windows of his car. I'm assuming he's sleeping in there. And it looks like somebody came by with a hammer or a crowbar or something. Oop. I still have the little countdown thing there, so we are presumably safe. So it is a little chilly out this morning, but that's... Oh, wow. That hotel, the lobby was full. I guess maybe if they offer breakfast, that makes sense. I keep forgetting how... I keep thinking it's like a month ago where this kind of light was at, 5:15 in the morning. But, yeah. But yeah, I've been real happy with this with these earbuds until, like I said, every once in a while they get wet from sweat or whatever I'm doing, and they start to act like this, but it usually clears up. Get out of the way, pigeon, damn. I did not think it was going to take him that long. Is he just too used to vehicles and people? Like, what the heck? I thought for certain, once I got within like 10 feet, they'd all scatter. Do you see this white van over here to the right? That is a van lifer. He probably paid the $40 or $30 right there to park there overnight. Still cheaper than rent. Because I'm looking for a place right now, and the areas I was looking in, oh my gosh, they ridiculously expensive. Like $1,400-$1,500 a month for a studio apartment. In some places, $2,000 a month for a studio apartment. It's like, holy crap. So yeah, $30 a night times 30 nights. It's cheaper than renting a place. Now, the only reason I can afford to rent a place is because I'm going to use a veterans program that helps with rent. That's why I had to move, because I couldn't afford the place that I was at anymore. And then I looked at, rent around town. I'm like, I can't afford to live here. What the heck? So I'm going to go, because the little guy on the other side said it's safe. Oh, this is a free mall ride. Okay. But yeah. Whew. So yeah, I'm kind of capped out on how much I can spend every month on rent and still have any kind of money left over for, being alive. Because, there's not just rent, but there's utilities. There's not just utilities, but there's food. And what if you decide to get internet? Things like that. Now, for the last few years, because I cut off internet at home, other than, maybe hotspotting my phone once in a while. For the last few years, when I needed to do like heavy internet-laden stuff, I'd go to the library, use their internet. It's free. Download a few movies or a season or two of a TV show for the next couple of days. Rinse, wash, repeat. But this is that Mayor Webb building right here off to the right-hand side that I was telling you guys about, that there was a lot of controversy in the naming because Colorado law says you can't name a building after anyone who's still alive. Or at least it used to. I don't know if they changed it. But they named this building after the former mayor anyway. Yeah. Like I said, there was some controversy there. And we'll cross here too, because you can see there's no traffic. There's no traffic. That's the Denver City County building. That's the state capitol. This is Civic Center Park. I forget what these pavilions are called, but they're kind of cool in that classical, neoclassical sort of way. I just wish this country would stop trying to copy ancient Greece so much. Just because the Greeks and the Romans wrote everything down doesn't mean that their society or culture was automatically better. It just means we know more about it. But as we learn about other societies and cultures, from the Celts to the ancient Chinese people to the indigenous African tribes, tribal culture and history, to Mayan and Incan and all the other ends. There's a lot of good culture. There's a lot of strong, how do I say this? Strong technical cultures out there. As Westerners in the in Western America, white people in Western in the Western world, we like to think that everybody else is still living in mud huts and who can't spell, cat, or, can't figure out how to dial 911 or whatever. That's not true. We're constantly learning that, these people in, ancient Central America were doing surgeries that, we didn't start, that Europeans didn't start doing until, 100 years ago. Stuff like that. So we know these cultures were advanced. Were they technologically advanced? Of course not. They didn't have the technological capabilities. But they did what they could. They still had free thought and free ideas, and they were still able to share those ideas and create a strong, independent culture. And we should, because you watch those shows, and if you are one of these people that watches these shows, okay, cool, they can be entertaining. But if you're one of these people that watches these shows and thinks, oh my God, that must be true, everything that I learned in history class is false, then you have some mental illness. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Oh, that is an awesome hoodie. Spider-Man, love it. But yeah, but shows like Ancient Aliens, where they sit there and go, oh my God, it must have been aliens because ancient people had no way of building these temples or these buildings or whatever. And it's like, you are discounting the ability of human beings because you don't think that ancient human beings could carve a rock, or could stack rocks on top of each other, or could align doors and windows with astronomical symbols. That's not true. Oh, there's a bunch of homeless people behind that fence. That is not true at all. Like, human beings have always been capable. That's why we are the only Homo sapiens to survive. Because we have that mental capacity. We have the ability to do things. And we always have. Oh, that guy was sitting up in not a crouch position, but like sitting, leaning back with his arms around his legs and his hoodie pulled over his head. And his dog, a large dog, a brindle, looked like maybe an Italian Mastiff or something, was taking up the rest of the space. And I feel bad for the human, don't get me wrong, but I feel even worse for the dog because dogs don't have agency. So they don't get to pick their life. It's a shame. But yeah, the idea that human beings, ancient human beings from 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, couldn't figure out where the moon came up or that it was full every 30 days, just astounds me that people actually believe that. Because, in our modern day Western hubris, we want to believe that nobody is as capable as we are. Well, sure, we have computers. We have electronics, we have things that make information faster. We have cars, but we didn't invent the wheel. We didn't invent the pyramid. We didn't invent irrigation system. Whoa, shit, that was a bus. He could have honked. But I think the bicycle path starts on the other side right here. So cars coming, nope. We'll go the other side here. Whew. Yeah, that bus was quiet and it came close. Holy crap. But yeah, it just astounds me that people don't think that we were capable a while ago. I know I've said that a few times now, but I keep getting distracted and I keep coming back to that same point because it's a launching point for something else, and I'm trying to remember because I keep getting distracted. But I can tell you what human beings have done that no other creature in the history of this planet has ever been able to do. And that is kill the planet. And I keep reading all these articles because, algorithms keep telling me how there's microplastics and everything. If you are alive in this day and age, you have microplastics in you. Doesn't matter where you live. Because it's in our water, it's in our air, it's in our soil. Now, modern studies say, they cannot say definitively if the microplastics are affecting our brains or our internal organs or anything, but everybody has it. Everybody has it in their blood. People are born with microplastics because they get it from their mother in utero. So that's just the smallest. And then we look at, all the plastic waste, all the garbage that, comes up on the ocean or the rivers or the creeks or the lakes or whatever. And then you think about the terraforming we've done to this planet in the last 100 years, knocking down mountains to get to minerals, diverting rivers to make dams, draining aquifers because, it's not raining enough because we've destroyed the ecology. One of these things right here, roads. If human beings stopped existing this morning at 8 a.m., so 50 minutes from now, if human beings stopped existing at 9 o'clock this morning, or 8 o'clock this morning, sorry, these roads, these street lights, these buildings would still exist for thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands of years. We have scarred this planet so bad while chasing a human concept known as money or wealth. It used to be you didn't starve in the wintertime, you were wealthy. It used to be that is either a very tattooed girl just, doing the walk of shame, or anywho. She could just be out for an early morning walk, but she was wearing a mini dress, skin tight mini dress. That's not morning walk stuff unless you're morning walking home. But yeah, human beings created the concept of wealth and riches. As I was saying, it used to be that if you and your family could survive through the winter without starving, you were considered wealthy. And then at one point it was if you could afford a couple of luxury items, maybe a book or two, or your kids got new clothes instead of hand-me-downs, you were considered wealthy. Now it's if you don't have your fifth yacht, your own private island, and all the Republicans in your pocket that you could possibly ever imagine, then you're not really wealthy. And it's all based on a concept that human beings developed for no reason other than, people with resources wanted to differentiate themselves from people without resources. That's it. So, yeah. Anywho. We are starting to see more people out and about this morning. You can notice a lot of people are wearing jackets or sweaters or something. Oops. Excuse me. But yeah. I did meet, speaking of, no, I won't get on that subject right away. That was a very bad segue. But yeah. Irrevocable harm to the planet. And if human beings were just harming ourselves, I wouldn't care. We did it. we should suffer for it. Easy peasy. However, it's not just human beings that are suffering. You know, the whole planet is suffering. Every animal on this planet drinks the same water we drink. And they often drink it unfiltered. We, at least in the Western world, drink it that it's been run through a filtration system. Whether at the municipal level or at the home level. Or the user level. Other people or animals are drinking from the rivers and the creeks and the lakes that we've polluted. They're drinking from puddles of water. You've seen them, the pigeons, the crows, the other birds hanging around a puddle of water after the rain. You know, that puddle of water is filled with grease and oil and everything that's falls off a vehicle while they're driving down the road. But they're sitting there drinking it. It's actually almost to the point where we can't even hunt anymore because the animals are so sick that we can't even eat them. We can't even use their flesh in a responsible manner because they're so sick it would make us even sicker. And we've been doing this for 100 years. More than 100 years. The industrial age started at the end of the 19th century. You know, we had giant forges and smithies and stuff building locomotives in the mid-19th century. So we've been doing this for a while. And, you know, because some rich people want to be richer, we're going to be, you know, we're just killing ourselves slowly. We are the proverbial frog or toad in the boiling pot. And, you know, there's going to be a day one day when human beings are just like, when the earth is just like, yeah, no, we're done. You guys had your chance. You failed spectacularly. I will still be around in a million years. You won't. So let's start over and see what the next species does. Because we're already seeing where, you know, we have shorter growing cycles for growing crops because we've damaged the ecology so badly that we have hotter summers and colder winters. So we have shorter growing cycles. We have less water, so we have shorter growing cycles. We have more people, so we need to grow more food. But we have shorter growing cycles. Alright, looks like the bike lane ended, so before I get hit by somebody behind me, I'm going to jump back up on the sidewalk. Just because with the street side parking, you know, I have to be out in the lane, and that bus got closer to me than I'd like to admit. I mean, it wasn't going to hit me. It had to be at least 5 or 6 feet away from me, but a bus coming at you at 5 or 6 feet away is still a little spooky. Sorry, I was looking both ways, see if anybody was coming. Yeah, so, anywho, yeah, we humanity's done. We've killed ourselves because everybody's chasing a dollar. I mean, just look at go to the store. Look at everything that's packaged in plastic. 50 years ago, it would have been glass. Now it's plastic. Why? Because plastic's cheaper. It's less recyclable than glass, but it's cheaper. Not only is it cheaper to produce, but it's cheaper to carry. What do I mean by that? Well, that's pretty simple. What I mean by that is that you take 5 pallets of plastic bottled Pepsi and you set it next to 5 pallets of glass packaged Pepsi and see which one's heavier. Now, the heavier means that you can't carry as much with you at any given time to deliver to stores. And it also means what you do, if you do carry, you know, so, you know, your fuel expenses go up because you either have to make more trips or you have to carry heavier loads. Either way, your fuel expenses go up. You know, look at this litter. I just passed a Subway wrapper and a bag. That Subway wrapper is wrapped is paper coated in plastic. And now it's just, on the ground. So, look at all those bottles of water, bottles of tea, bottles of cola, bottles of coffee, bottles of Gatorade or energy drinks. 9 times out of 10, it's plastic. And the few that are aluminum, because aluminum is like 99.9% recyclable. Aluminum is one of the most recyclable products that man has access to that does not deteriorate when it rains. But even aluminum cans, your beer can, your soda can, your energy drink cans, those are actually lined with plastic. A lot of people don't realize that, but there is a very thin, like sheet of paper thin, or half of a sheet of paper thin. There was a very thin lining to the can. It's supposed to help keep the drink from taking on a metallic taste. Yeah, but the plastic is everywhere, to include inside of us. So next time your friend gets a boob job. I was trying to think of a more polite way of saying it, but there's not a more fun way of saying it. But the next time your friend gets a boob job, or next time somebody gets a facelift and they put plastic pieces in them, and somebody starts teasing them about being made of plastic, just remind them that they are probably made of plastic too. So I did look at a couple of these buildings down here for rent. And even further down the road here, because I don't have a problem with this area at all. Light rail station's right there to take you right downtown. You can walk there or ride a bicycle there. I don't know if there's any shopping nearby. I know there's a lot of like little stores and restaurants and cafes in the first floors of a lot of these buildings. But I don't know if there's a supermarket nearby. But if you're only going once a week, it doesn't really matter. Okay. I was like, is this ever going to change? But yeah, that was one of the things that in one of the articles I read recently, I was wondering if she was going to stop. Because she looked like she was just wanted to go through the light. Tires, just normal driving. My bike, that car, that giant truck going down the road, and there is wear and tear on the tires. That's how your tread goes down. But apparently that wear and tear on the tires releases a lot of plastic into the environment. Oh, that's something I didn't know. I didn't realize there was a homeless dude sleeping under there. I didn't realize plastic was, tires had plastic in them, but it made sense, as a compound filler to increase the durability of the rubber. Like, it makes sense. But I just never thought about it before. But apparently that's one of the biggest contributors to plastic in our ecosystem is the tires. And not only that, but I guess recent studies demonstrate, pardon me, I got the hiccup all of a sudden. Recent studies demonstrate that hot beverages in plastic cups, or hot beverages in plastic containers. Holy crap, I got the hiccups. I don't know why, but I got them. But think hot coffee, hot tea, served in Starbucks cup, because that paper cup lined in plastic, that plastic cup made of plastic. We're gonna see. Okay, that guy's not going, so I'm gonna go. But oh, now they're going. But yeah, apparently that is a huge contributor to plastic in the human body, which, when you stop and think about it, makes perfect sense. Now you're heating up the plastic. It is deteriorating. You are swallowing it. Body doesn't know how to filter it. So, yeah. Ooh, adult store. yeah, so I'm not going to take the trail all the way back. I will take it back at least to like somewhere near downtown, and then I'll go back up and ride on the street again because it's early. There's not a lot of traffic. I don't mind riding a little bit more urban. Not that this is necessarily rural, but you know, we're not surrounded by buildings and businesses and stuff right now. But yeah, so you know, the whole planet's screwed. Because again, even people, let's say people in, you know, rural Mongolia, you know, people in Siberia, people on random islands out in the Pacific Ocean who have never seen an iPhone or who have never heard a record or who have never ordered a Starbucks or whatever, are being affected by what Western societies are doing. And it's not even Western societies anymore. Now we got, you know, places like India and China. The only good thing about that is at least China, I'm not sure about India, but at least China is making efforts to change. Like as a nation, as a culture, they have said, we're not going to do this anymore. This is against what we believe. We want to be more sustainable. And they're putting in the effort now so that in 10, 15, 20 years, while Americans are in the hospital every day because our kidneys and livers are just, you know, chunks of plastic, they're going to be out there going, okay, well, we control the world now. You know, so, yeah. It's like I said, our bodies aren't designed to filter it out. If it's in our blood and it goes through our kidneys or our liver or whatever, you know, our filtration systems, then the body doesn't know what to do with it. Because on a scale of human timeline, human Homo sapiens sapien has been around for 150,000 years at least. They're always finding evidence that says that we've been around longer, so take that with a grain of salt. But plastic's only been around for less than 100 years. We don't know how to deal with it. It's another homeless dude. I really do feel bad for the homeless community. Because it's not terribly cold, but it is cool, and especially if you're laying on the concrete, it's probably really cold. Trying to get any kind of sleep, you know how. So, a year or two ago, the mayor of Aurora, Colorado, Mike Kaufman. Now, for those of you who pay attention, Mike Kaufman was a congressman here in Colorado. He was one of those that ran when Obama was president under the Tea Party label, the anti-black label, the we don't want black people having positions of power label. Because let's face it, every single person who ran under the Tea Party mantra only ran because we had a black president. That's the only reason they ran. And I don't think it would have been any better had, let's say, Hillary Clinton won. They would have done it for her too. But if it had been another middle-aged white guy, they probably wouldn't have ran. They would have just complained. They would have gone on Fox News or what's that show with that blowhard? I cannot think of his name real quick because his name doesn't matter. But his show. He recently got in trouble for the Sandy Hook thing. He got convicted of lying about it. He had to liquidate all of his assets to pay, and he got in trouble for that too because he was trying to hide his assets from the court. But people found his assets. Anywho, I cannot think of. I'm picturing him in my head. I just cannot think of his name off the top of my head. But yeah, they just would have gone on channels like that and bitched and moaned and thrown a fit about, oh my God, they're trying to take care of homeless people. This is socialism. Oh my God, they're trying to take care of sick people. This is socialism. Oh my God, they're trying to, get everybody vaccinated. That's socialism. They want everybody to be healthy. That's socialism. They want to clean up the environment. That's socialism. But obviously, when it comes time to bail out Wall Street or bail out the auto industry or bail out telecommunications companies or defense contractors or whatever, suddenly it's not socialism. Because socialism for thee, but not for me. That's why Republicans are just, by and large, just all hypocrites. They'll drive on the same roads that you and I drive on that were built under socialism and then decry socialism. They'll call the police instead of private security while decrying socialism. They'll rely on the military for state security while decrying socialism. They'll take their children to parks and whine about socialism. They'll be the first ones checking out 20 books at the library and complain about socialism. Or, as I talked about the other day, the guy that complains about the light on his street being out for months or years at a time, and then complain about socialism. Well, we don't need no dang socialism. But the government needs to come fix this. The government needs to fix these roads. The government needs to fix these lights. The government needs to take care of the park. The government. But we don't want socialism. Yeah. Give me a break. They're all hypocrites. For every person decrying socialism, you're going to see a socialist. Because they're socialism for businesses. Look at the PPP loans during COVID. Oh my gosh. Thousands of companies took out PPP loans. Congress people took out PPP loans, quote unquote, for their staffs because their staffs were not getting paid. Their staffs were getting paid. But they still took out the loans. And then, after COVID was over, they all gave themselves a break. They said, oh yeah, we decided we don't have to pay out these loans that we got. We don't have to pay those back. So they literally just gave themselves $100,000s of dollars in bonuses. Small businesses across the country, large businesses. You got Exxon out there getting billion-dollar tax returns from the federal government, taking PPP loans because, they had to send people home to work. It's like, seriously? Or they had to furlough people. And then, the government comes in and says, oh yeah, well, you don't have to pay that back. Well, then it's not a loan. Right? Loans are when you pay it back. At least that's my understanding of what a loan is. If you don't have to pay it back, it's a gift. Just call it a free, tax gift. Now, to some extent, at least under the Biden administration, I don't know if the Trump administration has been doing this. I seriously doubt they have. Because the Trump administration and the Republican Party at large is all about stealing taxpayer dollars. I'm pretty sure when they go to those billionaire retreats where they all circle jerk on, pictures of Hillary Clinton or something, they sit there and talk about how to scam taxpayers. Because if you look at the systems, for the last 50 years, all it's been is privatize. Instead of spending $1 million doing this every year, why don't we spend $1.5 million privatizing it? It's like, so you want to spend another $500,000 just to add a middleman? Well, companies can do it more efficiently. Maybe not. Because let me break down a little secret that everybody knows, but nobody admits. Those companies that quote unquote have the experience usually hire government employees, whether they're military or prior service cops or administrators, bureaucrats, whatever. They usually hire them because they have the expertise. So they're saying, hey, we have the expertise in XYZ, give us this, pay us to do it and we'll do it more efficiently. Oh, and by the way, we're going to hire from the government to get that expertise. It is a giant scam. There is very little, and I'm only leaving that door open a little bit because, you can't speak in absolutes. he said after calling all Republicans hypocrites. But let's be fair, all Republicans are hypocrites. Don't get me wrong, Democrats are absolutely freaking useless, but Republicans are hypocrites. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah. So, you're spending more money to privatize something, and there's very few times, we're talking minuscule amounts of times, where it actually saves money. What it does is it just moves things from one line item in the budget to another line item in the budgets. So politicians can go before the constituents and say, look, my bill saved $1 billion. Look, we got rid of this line item. That saved us $1 billion. What they don't tell you is that in order to privatize it, they had to pay $1.75 billion. And that's just a different line item. That's the part they don't tell you. They don't tell you, and we can look at it in real world. Look what's going on in the world right now. Donald Trump, with his tariffs and his refusing to pay, contractors and farmers and everybody who relies on the government buying their product. The tariffs, everything. It's all about, saving money, not spending so much so we can write down the deficit. Everything, that's in the Project 2025 that the Heritage Foundation came up with to quote unquote save our economy. And in the last 6 months alone, our national debt has increased by $1 trillion. Even though Donald Trump's not spending the money, even though he loves to come out there and say, oh, look, our tariffs brought in $7 billion last month. Our tariffs brought in $12 billion the month before. Look how rich we're getting off tariffs. Well, first of all, those tariffs are just taxes on the consumer. That's all it is. So you're not really the government might be getting some money, but they would be getting the same amount of money, if not more, from taxes. From payroll taxes, or even, from cities and states from having a sales tax. They would actually be making more money. So Donald Trump lowered everybody's sales tax or taxable income. I said that wrong. He lowered the tax rate for everybody. Sorry. So that you can get a quote-unquote bigger return. But you're paying taxes through the tariff. You're paying an extra fee, raised prices because of the tariffs. And that's money you don't get to claim on your taxes. If you were being taxed if that was coming out of your paycheck, at the end of the year, you could claim it on your taxes. I spent money here, I spent money there, I did this, I did that. I bought a new truck, tax reduced, because I use it for business. I bought a new office building, tax break. I donated, I did this, I did that. All these things that you could, help reduce your tax liability to the state. But with tariffs, you don't get to do that. That's just money spent. You don't get to turn around and say, we're going to save... Pardon me. You don't get to turn around and say, I know milk went up $1.50 over the last year, which means I spent an extra, $300 on milk this year. Let me write that off. You don't get to do that. But if it were payroll taxes or any other kind of corporate taxes, you would. So that's how, the American people are being screwed. And we are a consumer-based economy. Oh my God, I don't understand why people don't understand that. If people aren't buying, our economy flails. That's why when the economy crashed in 07, 08, the economy had already been flailing for like 2 years when it finally crashed. And the reason it crashed is because people stopped spending money, because people were worried that their paychecks were going to go away. And they were blaming everybody under the sun for their paychecks going away because except for the corporations that were making the decisions to take away their paychecks. Try explaining that to a Republican. It's like, no, the reason you lost your job is because your company decided to maximize profits by getting rid of your job. They decided they could save that $55,000 a year or $80,000 a year by not paying you and just sprinkling your workload out amongst the remaining people. So they have to work a little harder. They don't get a raise, but you also don't get a paycheck. It's like, yeah, it must be Obama's fault. Huh? How is it Obama's fault that your company let you go? Oh, because, socialism. Yeah, they don't understand what they're talking about. Like even the Biden administration, when the Republican media machine, the conservative media machine was going off about eggs. Oh my God, egg prices are up 50 cents a dozen, 75 cents a dozen. They're up $1.50 a dozen. Yeah, because of a bird flu. Because they had to kill the sick birds and the birds that were in contact with the sick birds in order to stymie the flu. And basic supply and demand. When there's less supply and still demand, prices go up. To the point where, it's only the wealthy can afford it. Like houses and cars these days. God, I'm just looking at all the garbage. Cigarette butts are bad enough, but to see the plastic and the wrappers and everything else, it makes me want to vomit. It really does. I think when the police come out and clear the homeless camps, which personally I'm against, but I know they do it and I know they're going to keep doing it, so we'll just accept the fact that it's going to happen. But I think when they come out and do that, whether it's the Rangers or the police department or whatever, they need to make all the homeless, whoever they get on that particular day, just say, hey, here's a bag, here's a stick with a spike in it. You need to clean up all the, somebody's out there fishing. That's interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's fish in this water. I just would not expect people to be out here fishing. They need to say, yeah, you need to clean up, fill this bag up with garbage, or we're writing you a ticket. Now, it's not going to matter, because homeless people aren't really going to show up for court to pay a ticket that they can't afford in the first place. But still. Hopefully you get some, because, yeah, I had a ranger do that to me once. I showed up at an outdoor shooting range on public property down in about an hour and a half from here. I didn't even know about it. Guy that I used to be a roommate with, he told me about it. He's like, yeah, let's go out there and go shooting. And I was like, I've never heard of this place. So we go out there, and sure, it's just a bunch of ranges. You got short distance ranges, long distance ranges, but they're all outside. They're all shooting in safe directions, etc. And I was like, oh, this is actually nice. Except for you constantly have to hear the people out there just going, and it's like, yeah, you're not really practicing any kind of skill set there. You just want to feel power in your hands. I mean, to each their own. But when I want to feel power in my hands, I don't have to go to the range, you know what I mean? But apparently some guys do. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So, yeah, but we were out there. We got out there. The range was a mess. There was garbage. There were broken buckets and 2-liter bottles and gallon of milk bottles and boxes and all kinds of crap everywhere. Ranger pulls up and he sees us shooting. And now we had forgotten to bring targets. I will admit that. Neither one of us thought to bring a target. So we just grabbed garbage that was already there and started shooting at that. Well, the ranger pulled up and he goes, where's your targets? And we're like, oh, we actually forgot. So we're just using some of this garbage laying around. And he goes, oh, well, you can't do that. That's against the law. Like, okay, I don't know why you're blaming us. We didn't bring the garbage. We're just shooting at what's already here. He goes, yeah, so you need to either clean it up, pick up all the garbage around here, or I'm going to write you guys a ticket for littering. It's like, what? Now, I think the guy was just bullshitting, because there was no way in hell he'd be able to, prove that we littered anything, especially when we didn't. But yeah, it kind of ruined the day. Like, we picked up the garbage, and then the guy that I was with, my old roommate, he's like, "Oh my God, I think we should go." And I'm like, "Why? We brought a lot more ammo. Let's continue shooting." He's like, "Yeah, no, I'm done. I don't want him to come back around here." And I'm like, he's one of those tough guys. Talks tough all the time. Wears the tough guy shirts. You know the tough guy shirts. The ones that, you know, they have the tough guy sayings, maybe a picture of a Spartan helmet or a Punisher logo. You know, they say, "Don't tread on me," or 1776 or whatever. The tough guy shirts. Yeah, those tough guys are always pansies. They always freak out. They always back down when it comes time to put up or shut up. Every single time. Every single. My brother, perfect example. He talks so much shit on a daily basis. You know, he'll be the first one to say, "Oh yeah, F the police, and you know, I don't fucking listen to them. They come after me and I'm gonna run." No, he used to say things like this. He's like, "Yeah, they can't keep up with my vehicle. They'll never catch me, blah, blah, blah." It's like, okay. And then one day I was with him, because he lives outside of St. Louis. I was with him, and we went to get some food at a restaurant. And when he had a Chevy truck he always has a Chevy truck, but he had a Chevy truck at the time, and it had like a 6 or an 8-inch lift on it, with all the accompanying, because he was a mechanic, with all the accompanying suspension and everything. And he parked up against a curb. Now, it was one of those curbs in the middle of a parking lot where, you know, it's like a strip that's like 4 feet wide, and the cars pull up to it and it leaves like a little grass area in the middle. There's probably a proper name for that, but I don't know what it is. Like an island curb, sort of. Anywho, he was complaining because somebody had parked on the aisle behind him, and also a giant truck, and he didn't think he was going to be able to pull out, like back up. And I was like, "Well, you got this giant ass 4x4, just go over the curb." And he looked at me and he's like, "I can't do that." And I'm like, "What do you mean you can't do that? You talk tough all the time, dude, about how you run for them cops and you drive across cornfields, you know, destroying people's property to not get caught drunk driving and blah, blah, blah." Because, you know, he drunk drives almost every day. And he's like, "Oh no, they'll find me and give me a ticket." And I'm like, what happened to tough guy? What happened to the guy that said, you know, "F the police, they can never catch me"? What happened to the guy that said, you know, if a cop ever stops him, he's just going to punch him in the face and drive away? What happened to that guy? Yeah. So, I know that's just one example, but I've seen this example numerous times over the years. I'll use the term friend loosely. Old Army buddy of mine used to live here in Denver. We lived together for a while, a few times. But he was one of those. Talk tough. Wore the shirts. Remember those Ed Hardy shirts? Yeah, he had a whole closet full of them. You know, because, you know, $80 t-shirts. Why not wear it? Like, your $80 t-shirt does the same thing as my $7 t-shirt, dude. They both cover our bodies. "Oh yeah, but this one's Ed Hardy." So? "Oh, so it's a mindset, blah, 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 you know, tough guy, grr." But the first time he got even close to being in trouble. Now, granted, it was of his own doing. You know, nobody can deny that. But the first time he even got close to being in trouble, he started whining and crying. Basically, him and a friend of his went out to a bar. Somewhere at the end of the night when they were doing last call, and they had valeted their car, I guess. But somewhere towards the end, he had, so we will cross here and go up the other side. Somewhere between the exit door and the valet waiting spot, his friend got into an argument with somebody, and it became a push-shove situation. And my friend, being drunk and being the guy that he is, he decided he had to jump in there. So he jumped the guy that was pushing his friend. And his friend was not a small dude. I still see that guy at the gym. He, you know, has that Captain America body, and, you know, he's at least 5'10". You know, giant muscles everywhere. Looks like a bodybuilder. That's who he is. Well, he, you know, my friend, you know, again, 5'10", 5'11", somewhere in there, because he and I are about the same size. I'm I'll be just shy of 5'11" if I stand up straight. But he, oh, that'd make a cool photo. I really do need to bring my camera out here one day. But he, like the light just hit that perfectly. But he jumped in and he beat this guy down. Like, he apparently, according to him, cracked his orbital bone. Like, broke the guy's skull, hitting him so hard. Well, fast forward, police were called because he broke the guy's bone in his skull. It's now considered like felony assault instead of just a minor skirmish between drunk people. Blah, blah, blah. And my friend freaked out. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They're going to, you know, this is prison time stuff. It's like, well, one, you did it. So, you know, I don't know why you're complaining. Sorry, I needed to go faster. A car started coming. I don't know why you're complaining. You did it. He's like, well, yeah, but, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I get, dude. You did something while inebriated, and now you're regretting it because there's going to be consequences. But he started freaking out, and he hired a lawyer to, you know, defend himself and place the blame on his friend who didn't even hit the guy. You know, they were in a shoving match, but he's like, yeah, you know, he's like, yeah. Oops. So yeah, it was interesting. I was like, what happened to tough guy? What happened to I get into fights to solve my problems guy? What happened to I like to fight guy? What happened to, you know, that dude better not treat my girl, you know, better not say anything to my girlfriend, or better not, you know, do this, or better not do that. What happened to that guy? That guy got faced with real consequences, and he panicked. That's what happened to that guy. So a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh, that'd make a cool photo too. A couple of weeks ago, I was riding around through this area, and I was like, I forget what this area is called. I just remembered what this area is called. That's why I'm changing subject. It was called Riverwalk. Or Riverfront. Right there, Riverfront. Actually, let's turn around and go check this out real quick. Yeah, there's another van lifer. See, if I had a van like that, where it's self-contained and you could easily park in a spot, like there, like in a single spot, yeah, I wouldn't have no problem doing that. The van life thing. I mean, sure, it's a little hot in the summertime and it's a little cold in the wintertime, but it is what it is. I want to go up this rock thing here. See what I always ride past it, but because there's people out here, I never go up it. I just want to see what it is. Okay, so there's some plaques here that I'm not stopping to read. Because it almost looks like a, I forget what it's called, but it's like the battle station. Ooh, that's not good. No bueno. Like the battle station. Ooh, no, that's also not good. Sorry, dude. I'll go around. Oops. Sorry, this whole thing is kind of a spiral. Yeah, I wasn't expecting two people to be huddled under a towel over here. Because I've never seen anybody hanging out on the steps over there before. I actually forgot the steps were there. I thought maybe there was another ramp or a way down on the bike. Well, this bike has a suspension. It's not the greatest. You know, it handles sidewalk irregularities and bumpy grass and the occasional dirt road just fine. But I don't know how well it would do with, you know, steep stairs. But, oops, too close to that wall. But yeah, you know, castle ramparts, that's what I was thinking, ramparts. That's what this looks like to me, is like a castle rampart.
So this thing says Common Ground honors the site's historical use by diverse people. And then it goes on to talk about the installation here. So that's kind of cool. Basically that, we are a diverse society, and we have always been a diverse society, and we should honor and revel in that diversity, which I agree with. It'd be absolutely boring if we were all the same. I mean, look at them Mormon compounds. They're all the same. Excuse me. Look at them white nationalist compounds. They're all the same. Boring. And then you always have your people who are trying to preserve the purity, blah, 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 which, there is always some drama, but there's no diversity of thought. There's no diversity of creativity or anything like that. Everybody, it's just the same. So, anywho. Yeah. Do I go? I do go down here. Okay. I said I was going to go up and go through town and stuff, but I don't feel like pedaling that far over. Alright, there was a dude sitting here for a while. He was up here. My bad. He had a sign that said homeless, hungry. But he sat here for days, right here at the end of this wall. I just kind of want to see if he's still there, because I haven't been through here in a minute. Nope, he was right there. But he never wore shoes. His feet were always swollen or bandaged. I don't know if it's a diabetes thing or some other kind of health thing. But I was getting to that earlier, sorry, and I kind of got sidetracked. Aurora has a mayor who used to be a Tea Party, or still is a Tea Party, that kind of mentality. But he kind of evolved a little bit, and I'll get into that in a second. But he was a congressional representative out of Colorado. He ended up losing his re-election to a Democrat who has now filled that seat far longer than this guy ever did. Well, this guy decided, he's anti-homeless because, Republican. You can't have anybody that's poor. And you can't have any services for people who are disenfranchised. So he was looking to find an excuse to sweep away homeless camps and to get rid of homeless people, to send them to Denver maybe, or to put them on buses to Houston or something. I don't know, whatever Republicans do with people they don't like. Because it seems to me that they just bus them up and send them away. Like Douglas County, down south from here. About halfway between here and Colorado Springs, but not quite halfway. I talked to the VSO there once a few years ago, and I asked him about services for homeless veterans. Because I knew somebody who was getting ready to become a homeless veteran. He goes, oh, well, you have to go up to Denver for that. We don't really have homeless services in Douglas County. And it's like, you don't think people in Douglas County lose their houses or go through divorces or, get sick and end up destitute? He's like, well, I'm sure it does, but Douglas County just doesn't have those resources. So we send everybody up to Denver. So when Douglas County came by earlier this year and they said, oh, look, we've been able to solve our homeless problem. We've been able to get rid of homeless people, help all these people find housing. What they mean, what they're not telling you, and this is, public relations or marketing, is they scooped up the handful of homeless people in Douglas County and they put them on a bus and sent them to Denver to get resources. I'm using air quotes you can't see. But that was the plan. That's all they did. They're like, yeah, we solved our homeless problem by getting rid of our homeless people. We didn't get rid of your homeless people. I mean, technically you did. That's why it's not technically a lie. But all you did was make them somebody else's problem. So, does that seem fair to you? Oh, well, they have more resources. Okay. just because Douglas County is a red county and you guys constantly vote to never raise taxes, and so your roads suck and your common areas like parks and trails and stuff suck, doesn't mean that you don't have resources. It means that you apply them to beautification efforts instead of living efforts. But yeah, they're all proud of themselves for solving their homeless problem. Well, we got rid of the homeless people, so our residents don't have to see that, that actually exists. It's a Denver problem, not an us problem. That's their mentality. Yeah, this mayor of Aurora, he's one of those types, let's get rid of him. But he couldn't do it ethically or morally unless he could justify the excuse. So what he did, he claims he put on some dirty clothes and he went and slept in a homeless camp for a week. He claims he did. There's no truth or evidence that was put out about that. That he actually literally slept in the dirt or slept in a lean-to made out of cardboard or something. There's no evidence that ever happened. It's just his claim. Now, he may have gone out, hung out at homeless camps during the day and gone home for the evening. We don't know. Well, I'm sure he knows, and maybe his close staff, but we don't know. Regardless. He came out and he's like, oh yeah, I went undercover in in the homeless community in Aurora. And, we don't have a problem scooping them up and sending them away because they're all just druggies anyway. Everybody I saw was on drugs. Everybody I saw was doing meth or cocaine or crack or heroin or whatever they could get their hands on. It's like, okay. He's like, yeah, so these are not the kind of people we want in our city, so we're going to start having the police scoop up the homeless people and get rid of them. And I made the argument then, and I'll make it again today, and I'll make it again tomorrow. Cart and horse, or chicken and egg, however you want to look at it. There's a couple that were sleeping there. I don't know if they were together, but they were sleeping, sharing body warmth. The dude was at least looked like a woman anyway. Have her have the blanket, and he was just sleeping in his hoodie and jeans. Yeah. But this mayor, he made this, declaration out of a quote unquote a week of living with homeless people, and it's like, he never stopped to think or question whether people got on drugs after becoming homeless to try and deal with the homelessness, try to deal with the sleeping on the street, with the noise, with the constant, thievery or harassment by, police and local businesses and community members. You ever stop to think that that's their way of compensating? Is to get drugged up so that it means less to them? Or do you think, but he ran under the assumption that everybody who is homeless because they'd rather do drugs than have a job, when that's not true. Are there people like that? Absolutely. Pardon me. But I've had a chance over the last 4 or 5 years to meet a handful of homeless people, and very few of them had drug addictions. One guy came up to me when I was leaving the gym one morning. He saw me get in my truck and he walked over and he's like, hey man, you got can I get some money for a drink? And I was like, sure, I got some bottles of water in here. What do you want? I got regular water and I got sparkling water. Because I used to buy cases of water because it was cheaper than buying, bottles of water every day. And I just leave them in my truck. And he's like, no, man, I want alcohol. I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'll help you get some water. I'll help you get some food, but I'm not going to help you get alcohol. He's like, ugh, all right, man, thanks. And he just walked away. He didn't get angry. He didn't try to fight me. He didn't threaten me. He's just like, yeah, all right. Because that's my rule. I will help you
but I will not feed into your vices. And I learned that one when I was 18 in the Army in Fort Gordon, Georgia. Me and some guys were driving around one night because we were 18. We couldn't go to bars or clubs or anything, so we didn't know what to do. We were just driving around one night, and we were at a red light or whatever, and somebody came running from the street. I didn't even see him until they were at the car, and he goes, "Hey man, me and my girl are hungry. Can you help us buy food?" And the guy, I can't remember his name. I haven't spoken to him probably since AIT, which was 1993, 1994. Depends on what time of year it was. Because I went to AIT in September and got out in April. So, but he, the guy that was with us, he's like, "Yeah, hold on." And he told the driver, because he was in the passenger seat, he told the driver, he's like, "Yeah, go up here to the bank. Or no, go to McDonald's over there." So he goes to McDonald's, dude goes in, he comes back out with a couple of bags of food. He's like, "Yeah, I just got a couple of, Happy Meals or a couple of, Big Mac meals or whatever it was." And he told the driver, he's like, "Yeah, go back to where they are." And we drove over to where they were, and he handed them the food. And the guy, you could tell, the guy didn't want food. He looked at it like, "What the fuck is this?" And the guy, and the guy that was with us, he's another soldier. He goes, "You said you were hungry. Here's some food." And then the guy just kind of had this like bewildered look on his face, like, "What the fuck?" Pardon my French. And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, as we pull away, he goes, "Look," he goes, "I don't mind helping people." He goes, "But I'm not going to give them money because I don't know where that money's going. They could be collecting money to buy drugs or alcohol or something. But if they're begging, they need food, not drugs or alcohol. So I will buy them food." And I was like, and that was just an epiphany for me because that had never come up in my life. Like I grew up in a relatively small town in the South. Now I grew up around people who had a lot of vices. Don't get me wrong, no hard drugs to the best of my knowledge, but my dad was an alcoholic and he was a smoker until like his late 30s or 40s when he stopped smoking. He still drank until almost until the day he died. My mom, smoker until her 50s. To this day, she's 74. To this day, she still has to have her couple of beers every day. My brothers, they're all drinkers. They have to have their alcohol every day. A lot of people I went to high school with started smoking at 14 or 15 years old. That everybody had, they were drinking. I found out only at my dad's funeral that my two younger brothers actually broke into his booze cabinet and drank his booze all the time. They're like, "Yeah." They said it as like a funny joke during his ceremony. They're like, "Oh yeah, when we were like 15 and 14, Dad had this at his house." Well, what a lot of people didn't know was that was filled with alcohol. So we just go in and pour ourselves some drinks and then fill it back up with water before anybody noticed. Like, wait a minute, so you were getting drunk at 15 and 16? Are you kidding me? And I find that, apparently that's normal, I guess. But I didn't start drinking alcohol until I was like 20 or 21. Even though it was available to me in the barracks. But I grew up around drinkers, and I didn't want any part of that. I didn't understand why people needed to be inebriated all the time. You come home from work and you just start drinking. And then you drink all night. And then I was telling somebody this story yesterday, and I said, "Yeah, there were times when, we'd eat Hamburger Helper for 2 or 3 days in a row because, buying a pound of hamburger was only like, $2 or $3 at the time. And the Hamburger Helper was really cheap. And it was a great way to feed me and my brother, which I have no problems with. You do what you can with the money that you have or the resources that you have. If that means you have to eat, as my friend calls it, poor people food, then you eat poor people food. As long as you are eating, you are not starving and you are getting some kind of nutrients. You do what you can. But my mom's feeding us like that, but then she's buying her pack of cigarettes every day, and she's buying her 6-pack of beer every day, and I'm like, that adds up. So, as an adult, I look back at it and I say, so you were prioritizing your vices over your children's health. Now, we never, went without meals. Don't get me wrong. My mom did the best she could with what she had. My dad barely ever paid child support, and my mom would not go after him for it. And back in the 80s, I asked her one day, I said, well, what is the child support? Thinking, because she was complaining about my dad not paying. She was like, he hasn't paid for 3 months. And I'm like, I remember, I was like 13 or 14. I was like, well, how much is it? Trying to get an idea. I'm thinking, it's like $400 or $500 a month or something. And she goes, it's $75. $75 per kid per month. So $150. My dad, who made 6 figures, would not pay his $150 a month child support more often than not. So my mom, high school graduate, but no college, had a job. She had a career. She worked at the same place, for 30 years. She worked her way up as high as she could go without that education. And she provided, which I, respect 100%. But then, like I said, as an adult, I look back and I see, she wasted a lot of money. Like, she bitched and moaned all the time about not having money to take us to fairs, or not having money to buy us new shoes at the school year, or, complained about, we can't turn on the AC in Florida because it costs too much. But her beer never cost too much. Her cigarettes never cost too much. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Point being, if you're in charge of somebody's well-being, whether that's a child, an elderly person, or I'll use the term pet. I don't like the term pet, but or a pet, you need to take that seriously. On the other hand, my brother is acting like our dad, where it's just like, children should be there when you want them to be there, but not there when you don't want them to be there. And that bothers me. I've talked to him about it a few times. I'm like, I flat told him one day, we were having a serious conversation. I was like, spend time with your kids, dude. Spend time with your kids. You keep sending them places. You keep sending them to classes. You keep sending them to sports leagues. You keep sending them. Spend time with them. You don't get these days back. In 10 years, when they're out of the house and in college, you don't get these days back. In 20 years, when they have kids of their own, you don't get these days back. I'm just going to go up this way a little bit. So I guess I could go over here. And I don't like to get you guys too close so you don't see, for privacy reasons. We'll just go up here. I was like, I can take you a little closer just for the sake of, because I wasn't done talking. But I think I'm pretty much done talking. But I'm like, spend time with your kids, dude. Go play ball with them. When your son said he wanted to do, because my brother picked up golf, I'm like, when he said he wanted to play golf because you play golf, he wasn't saying he wanted to play golf. He was saying he wanted to spend time with you. That's why he doesn't care about golf. He doesn't get excited. Because my brother didn't take him golfing. He bought him golf lessons. And I'm like, take him golfing. He's like, well, he's not any good at it. So, take it. All he's asking is to spend time with you. That's all he wanted. He sees dad likes to go golfing, so I want to go golfing because that's what dad likes. Dad likes to watch football, so I'm going to pay attention to football because that's what dad likes. He's trying to connect with you. He's like, but, and I'm like, it doesn't but anything, dude. These are your kids. He's like, I do spend time with them. I'm like, them being in the pool while you are cleaning the pool is not spending time with them. Them sitting on the couch with you while you are watching, a movie or a football game or something is not spending time with them. Spending time with them is hanging out with them, doing interactive things with them, etc. Do that. Oops. How's it going? Ooh.
That guy had a serious case of cross-eyed. Oh my gosh. Like, I looked him straight in the eyes, and his right eye was looking left, and his left eye was looking right. Anywho, I always try to cut it off at this bridge, just so you don't see the last mile and a half or so. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. Thanks for coming along. Sorry it wasn't that exciting. I actually did want to get out before the sun came up. Just kind of see it at night, or at least in the dark. But I was taking my sweet butt time this morning. But thanks for coming along, and we will do this again in the future. Have a great day.